welcome to Overdrive. I'm Shireen Bhanna. Ever since Toyota took the wraps off its latest generation Camry, we've been waiting to assess how it's going to do in the fiercely competitive executive sedan segment. You've guessed it, you've got a Comparo coming up. We sent Sandeep and Rishada to find out if the Camry can stand up to the benchmark in the segment, the Skoda Superb. Take a look.
The last time we featured the D segment on Overdrive, the new Sonata took on the Accord and Superb in May, with our three-man jury confirming that the Superb was still the best petrol option in the segment.
But if you head over to our YouTube channel and take another look at that story, you'll realize that there was one car missing. You see, Toyota hadn't yet launched the new Camry in India, and now that it's here, and as we told you in our road test a couple of weeks ago, it is very good. I, for one, think that this car has what it takes to be the new D-segment champion, at least as far as petrol engines go.
Well, I'm not so sure, Sandeep. I remember being really sold on the Superb last time around. And although I know the new Camry is a very impressive car, I still think this Skoda has what it takes to beat it.
Well, it promises to be a close contest, if nothing else, and there's only one thing to do now: get straight into it, and we'll start with the styling.
Since styling largely comes down to personal preference, we're just going to give you some quick points to ponder. The new Camry is a lot more subtle than its brash and bulbous predecessor. It has been loaded with chrome wherever possible to give it a more premium feel, and even though it does look imposing and proportional, especially when viewed in profile or from the back, it still leaves us thinking what could have been. The Superb's looks have always polarized opinion just a bit. Parked next to the Camry, it looks sleeker, lower to the ground, and just a wee bit disproportionate thanks to the long bonnet and exaggerated cab backward stance. The styling cues are minimalist with straight lines and clean surfaces, making it very hard to separate the two contenders. While the old Camry had funky and ultra-futuristic interiors for its time, this one is a lot more understated in an effort to provide a sophisticated and premium cabin. The seats, as always, are well bolstered. It is loaded with tech and features, and unique touches like controls to move the front passenger seat placed high up on the seat itself. The rear bench too is just as roomy and comfortable as you'd expect. The Superb's cabin, meanwhile, oozes sophistication and class. Solid build quality, premium materials, the best legroom in class, and thoughtful touches like the rear AC vents on the B-pillar all give it the edge, despite this ambition trim level lacking the touchscreen infotainment system.
Knowing fully well that the Camry didn't have a diesel engine in its portfolio, a crucial disadvantage in this dieselized market, Toyota pulled absolutely no punches when it came to this car's power plant. It's an all-new 2.5-litre petrol engine with dual VVTi that makes more power and more torque. But the story of this engine isn't about the power or the torque, it's about the smoothness and refinement. This engine is just that smooth, that refined, and that quiet. And for that, you also need to mention the fact that Toyota has fitted this car with Yokohama's decibel tires designed to reduce road noise. And the result is that sometimes when you're driving around in the city, you actually hear the cars around you rather than your own car. The Camry is that quiet. That's not to say that the Camry is a slowpoke either. This car actually turned in a 0 to 100 time of 9.5 seconds in slightly wet test conditions, which is decently quick. But what lets the Camry's overall package down is its gearbox. It's only available in one variant with the automatic torque converter gearbox, and the best way to describe it is slow and lazy. It does its business, especially in the city. You're not going to get too many complaints, but this gearbox takes its own sweet time to shift up and down, and that's a pity because this car actually has a lot of performance in it just waiting to be unleashed.
Now the Superb is powered by the 1.8 TSI petrol engine. When we first drove this car, we were really amazed at how such a seemingly small engine can pass such a big and hefty car along. We're still amazed today considering the fact that this engine keeps up with the bigger 2.5 litre petrol in the Camry.
Despite giving away more than half a litre of capacity to its rival, the Superb is not outdone in this department, producing a healthy 0 to 100 time of 9.5 seconds. The turbocharger also provides good low to mid-range grunt, helping the engine keep up with the competition and making the car very drivable.
Now the Superb that Skoda have given us for this test comes with a 6-speed manual. You can also get the car with a 6-speed dual-clutch DSG automatic, and that gearbox is considerably better than the standard torque converter you get in the Camry.
A sofa on wheels, the Titanic trying to avoid an iceberg, rolls like a boat. We've said all of these things and a whole lot more about the old Camry's handling abilities, and I'm glad to say that aspect is completely changed. Let's start with the steering. It's very light and maneuverable, finger-twirlingly light at slow speeds, and you can actually park this car very easily. It doesn't feel as big as it should. But when speeds build, that's when things get interesting because you actually get a decent amount of feedback, the steering weights up nicely, and this car could be really fun to drive, especially when you consider the fact that the suspension too has been worked on. The ride quality is still very plush, thanks in part to these extremely well-bolstered seats. But unlike the old Camry, which used to roll a lot, this car is actually quite composed and calm. Now, if only that gearbox had been a bit better, you could actually imagine yourself having fun with this car. But given the circumstances and the fact that this engine is, like I said earlier, so smooth and refined, all you really want to do, simply hire a chauffeur, put him up to do this job, and enjoy yourself in the back. That's the best place to be in the Camry.
Now the Superb isn't quite as soft or plush as its Japanese competitors, but you'll never really complain about the ride. What you will really like is the handling. You can throw this car around a corner like it was a much smaller vehicle. It brakes well, it has a nice engine, the steering is good, and the suspension is well set up. It's good fun to drive.
With both cars neck and neck on most parameters, the Skoda's fun-to-drive factor could well be the decider, along with a quick check of the price lists.
And so strangely enough, and this is something I really didn't think I was going to see in the Indian car market, it's the Japanese car that is the most expensive in the segment, and the European car, the Superb, that offers the best value for money. But is that why it wins, Rishad?
Well, not entirely, Sandeep. Granted, the Camry has beautiful ride quality and an amazingly refined engine. It is quite literally like driving through clouds. But I think besides that, the Superb does everything else a little better. It's got a little more space, it's quite a bit nicer to drive, and yes, it does cost about 2.5 lakhs less than this car.
But if I can just make a point here, if I'm someone who's chauffeur-driven to work a lot and I want to relax in my car and chill out, boss, this is it. Doesn't get better.
Eyes closed. For the money, this is the most comfortable car that you can get. But Sandeep, let me also bring up one more point. With the Superb, you can get a choice of diesel or petrol engines, and you can get a choice of manual or DSG automatics. Now that brings a whole lot more versatility to your buying decision. This thing just gives you one option, fully loaded petrol automatic. Again, the Superb wins.
And strangely enough, and I never thought I was going to say this twice, it's not just the Japanese car that's the most expensive, it's also less versatile. And that fittingly is perhaps why the Superb is still the champion of the D segment.